everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are only halfway through ping pong. I have started on Patreon as well as YouTube. If you have been looking at the YouTube community posts as well as on Patreon, then you know that we are in the full swing of already planning out the series that is going to replace ping pong. I don't even want to think about replacing ping pong right now because I'm loving this series so much. But I'm doing a March Madness style bracket right now, so you can determine the final 4 series that are going to come after this one. So I'm just giving a special plug to that. If you go in the community post or on Patreon, you'll see those. You get to vote. It's pretty exciting. Now, the final 4 will be voted by patrons only. So, but it's only $1 to vote. So it's like, you know, it's less than a cost of a pack of gum. So, at which Smile may, you know, Smile won't need gum, but Peco might need gum. So, I always want to call Peco Smile because he has the star, and I think star, smile, 2 S's, what you do. But the last 3 episodes have been amazing for this series, and I am so excited to dive into episode 6, but I don't know about the fallout now that Sakuma and Peco have quit table tennis, supposedly. Well, Sakuma has been expelled and kicked off the team, and Peco has thrown his, you know, his paddle into the river, so they seemingly are done, which honestly, if the second half of this series is focusing on Smile, Cosma, and Kong, and it's like down to the final 3, I'm fine with that. I really hope we see more Kong because Kong's like one of my favorites. I love him so much. I do have some episode comments though, now that we have a couple episodes out on YouTube and Patreon. I've got several comments from episode 1 and then some from episodes 2 and 3. So I want to dive into those. I Swallow Apple Seeds 927 says, for episode 1, it is no coincidence about the animation style since both Devilman Crybaby and Ping Pong share the same director, Masaki Yuasa. I have watched Devilman Crybaby. It was before I started the channel, and it was one of those series where I started it at like 8 p.m. thinking, oh, I'll just watch an episode, and then at 4 a.m. I was sleep deprived and crying, so... But yes, I have seen Devilman Crybaby. He arguably has one of the most unique and recognizable styles in all of animation, in my opinion. I would agree with that. Absolutely. And while both shows were made in different studios, okay, a lot of people that worked on Ping Pong would eventually go on to work in Studio Science Saru, which is the studio that made Devilman Crybaby and Dan-Da-Dan. And I'm watching Dan-Da-Dan right now. Dan-Da-Dan, its style is nothing like Ping Pong. Absolutely not. But there is, I will say without spoiling anything about Dan-Da-Dan, there is a frenetic energy to Dan-Da-Dan that reminds me of Ping Pong. So I can see that. But Devilman Crybaby, the art style is very similar. And so that was the show I was trying to think of. I'm like, what does this animation remind me of? It's like 90s Rugrats off Nickelodeon and Devilman Crybaby. So thank you, I Swallow Apple Seeds, for sharing that information. Richard K.H. Chang says for episode 1, talking about the different positions and stuff with table tennis, saying that a chopper is a defensive, safe style of play where you conservatively put yourself in a good position to be able to return anything and passively wait for your opponent to make mistakes, which makes a lot of sense for Smile's character. Ditto for Peco's attacking style of play, which makes me wonder, I wonder if Smile is going to change their style to fit their evolution as a player. Perhaps. The coach seemed to want him to change up a little bit in episode 3, so I wonder about that. We'll see. It is implied that he just rallies endlessly and doesn't counterattack to expose all the holes that Peco leaves open, even though he sees them. That makes so much sense now. Knowing that about Smile's style of play makes so much sense. And again, I wonder if he's going to evolve and change up the styles if he faces Kong or Cosma again, which I would not be surprised if he does. Kong's, maybe it's a Japanese thing, isn't a racial insult. I think he was just presuming that losing on purpose could be some respect-based custom that he didn't understand. That does make sense, but at the same time, it's kind of a backhanded compliment. It's kind of like, oh, do you guys just give up all the time? Is it just your culture? Like, it's kind of a read. Whether he's not being racial or not, it's kind of a read. Being like, oh, do you guys just suck on purpose? Is that like a cultural thing? I love Kong so much. He's such a diva, and I love him. Akio Ravenclaw 2052, fellow Ravenclaw, peace up. Says for episodes 1 and 2. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but in episode 1, Kong says in Chinese that it's tragic, or it could be translated as pathetic, that Smile doesn't have the fighting spirit. But then adds that he himself is really pathetic for being the one with all confidence and no talent. Again, we talked in episode 5 about how Kong and Peco are surprisingly similar. They really are. They both are kind of like, I think the difference is self-awareness. I think Kong has been self-aware that he's not the most talented, but he keeps working really hard to get there. And then you have Sakuma, who is kind of blind to the fact that he wasn't that talented. He's just like, I'll just keep working hard and it'll make up for it, which is not what Kong thinks at all. And then you have Peco, who, whether he was self-aware or not, or just in denial, is a totally different story. But he was kind of ignoring the fact that he wasn't as talented and just kind of riding on this confidence like Kong did, except he ends up not working harder to try to balance that out and just gives up. So I thought that was really good to point out. Killer Queen with episode 2 says perhaps the robot Smile turned into in that episode was a monster robot from the game he was playing. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it is a possibility that Smile, we have 2 robots. We have the Enter the Hero robot and we have the mechanical robot. We haven't seen the robots in a while, which is interesting. I feel like we're going to have to come back to those, but I think it is interesting that perhaps the one is the robot that's kind of like more chaotic and more, it feels like the Enter the Hero robot is more diplomatic and lawful. And then the blue robot is more chaotic, kind of like the video game robot and just doing it for fun. Maybe there's a difference there. We'll see. And then finally, Shimoyama with episode 3 says Chinese players have dominated the table tennis world, but Japanese players tend to participate in international games at early stages compared to Chinese elite players. So I guess Kazuma knows the handshake movement is the universal language at sports events. Unlike Kyoto and high school baseball, Japanese table tennis players don't make a bow so often. That's good to know. Shimoyama's from Japan, so it's good to know some cultural things there. It's so funny because last night I was at my parents' house and my dad has somehow gotten on a Bruce Lee kick watching Bruce Lee videos. And I'm like, all right. But he had this video, and I'd never seen it before, of Bruce Lee challenging these table tennis players. And I was like, this is very relevant to what I'm watching. And he was basically playing table tennis against 2 players, but he was using nunchucks instead of paddles. I'm sorry, what? It was wild. But I mean, I guess it's the same thing, but it's just like, you not only have to be able to face 2 table tennis players at the same time, pairing back and forth, but the nunchucks are 2 wooden sticks with a chain connected. So it's not like you're just hitting it with a paddle. You have to get the chain connected to the other stick to take the place of the paddle and time it just right. It was wild, y'all. And I was like, what a coincidence. I'm going to watch ping pong today. So makes sense. But y'all, I'm super excited to see where we go with this episode. I hope you all are as well. So with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive into Ping Pong episode 6. And I'm going to double check real quick and make sure that my subtitles are right, that my audio is right. We're all good to go. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's jam. This is peak cinema. Oh my God. No, it's over. We have just started 2025. We have just started the year, and I'm already thinking of my end of the year lists. And right now, ping pong is topping the end of the year list. It's really far up there because I'm like, I am so enamored. I am so hook, line, and sinker invested in these. There's 4 storylines going on right now, and I am 1,000 times here for them. The conversation about the heroes, the Kazuma Sonata Yui love triangle. Holy shit, did that come out of nowhere? And I was like, oh my God. And then the reality of what happened at the end of that scene, because he was not with her. It took me a second, and then when she deleted the text, I was like, oh my God, we have so much to talk about. Oh my God. I love the maturity of this show. I love the maturity of it. I love how adult it is. I love all the storylines and how they're fleshing out the conversation about the heroes and teams and dedication. And I am just, and Kong is a perfect being. Like, why is he not real? Where is he at? I want this ping pong player with a beautiful singing voice and a heart of gold with his mom to come into my life. I need that right now, please. Oh my God. I am so over the moon. This episode's my favorite so far, and it's not the most intense. It's not got the biggest twists, but it is so dense and so good, and we need to talk about it. So as far as we go on here, we basically have 4 storylines going on at this point in the story. As we start the second half of the series, we have 4 storylines going on. We have Smile, which we're going to talk about the robot and the hero. We have Smile's storyline, Smile and Katase. We're going to put them together. Smile and Katase as the team. We're going to put them on here. Then we have Kazuma. We have Kazuma and Kaio. We have them as well. And that whole drama and the comparisons there. And then, hopefully you all can hear me, then we have Kong's team. Kong is back in Japan. His mom came to him for Christmas. That's so adorable. So we have Kong and their team. I don't know what their team's name is. I have forgotten that. But there's their dynamic. And then over here, we have my new ship, which is Peco and Sakuma. Now, look, I feel like a bunch of people on Patreon joke. They're like, Romania can make a ship out of any series. And I was like, you're correct. Do I really ship Peco and Sakuma? No, but they do have a vibe. If people do ship them, I totally get it. But I don't entirely ship it. Everybody in this series, with the exception of the love triangle between Yui, Kazuma, and Sonata, everybody gives off like platonic friend vibes, which I'm so... Here's the thing. Really side tangent, real quick. A lot of people will be like, in sports anime, why do you ship all of these BL male and male relationships? Like, can't they just be friends? If you've read any type of romance, if you've read any romance novels, I don't care what it was, or any romance manga, or seen any romance shows, there is just a vibe that when characters give off this chemistry and a vibe, you're like, no, those two could be in a romantic relationship with one another. And in sports anime, it is ripe with ships and couples and things. And I'm a romantic, I latch onto it. But in this series, they do a really good job of, no, these are just friends. They don't give off the chemistry vibes of being in a ship. They're just friends and rivals. Like, it is the most platonic series. And I'm fine with that as long as that's what it is. And that really what it is. I don't ship Smile with anybody. I don't ship Kong with anybody. Peco and Sakuma had a moment here where they had this like confession-y moment. And that's kind of why I shipped them in the moment, Peco and Sakuma. And the fact that Peco is terrible to all his girlfriends. I'm like, maybe you're just swinging in the wrong game. I'm just saying, because you're striking out with all the ladies. But then you have Kazuma and Yui and Sonata. Oh my God. The drama. And so, yeah, that's my thought about it. But okay, as soon as we got this opening scene with the robots and the Berserk robot firing and going out of control, I instantly wanted to talk about it. And saying the Berserk robot destroys everything in its path. And it is done in red, which has been Smile's color, am I right? Or Smile was blue, actually. Smile was blue, weren't they? But the Berserk robot destroys everything in its path. Only the legendary hero can stop them. The hero is absent. So we have this concept of a Berserk robot that is on this path of destruction. Right? This path of destruction. And they say that the hero is and only a legendary hero can stop them. And there's like less than a year till Earth's destruction. Their rise, hero, awaken from your slumber in the grave. So the hero is absent. Right? Now, with Peco and Smile, Sakuma came over here and told Peco to be a hero. And Smile's whole thing is he's had this line about enter the hero, right? I don't know at this point, and I don't want to know from the comments. We're going to find out, obviously, as the series goes on. But I don't know if maybe since Peco is no longer playing, if in a sense Pico kind of grounded Smile in the fun aspect of the sport, and now that Pico is not playing, Smile is just kind of going berserk and just not really focusing on the fun aspect anymore. He's just doing it as out of spite and obligation and to beat Kazuma, and he's just obsessed at this point. And if Pico coming back in, I would be curious if Pico became the robot to challenge Smile. That would be interesting. I'd be curious to see how that's going to go. And we're going to talk about that as we go through this. But at first, I thought that the kids watching and talking about the manga were them when they were kids, were like Pico and Smile and then when they were children. Because then you have the one kid playing the video game kind of like Smile. They're like, what do you mean? Attack on Robot, which, what a play, is talking about what do they mean hero? The robot's gone berserk, but he's really nice on the inside. Which seems like a reference to Smile. Now, this kid doesn't have glasses, so they're probably not Smile, but they are playing the same game that Smile has played. So the idea, the one kid says that the berserk robot is nice on the inside. It, to me, seems like the one robot, which is the one that's mechanical and chaotic and destroying everything, is Smile when he doesn't have a sense of purpose, or Smile when he doesn't have a sense of fun in the game. And maybe Smile wants someone to awaken, enter the hero for him. And maybe Pico's going to be the one to do that. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what the show gives us. But it says the Monster Robot Revival selection. And then you see the hero robot that we've seen from previously is defeating the other one. The hero is the only one who can stop him. And yeah, apparently he thoroughly analyzes his opponents and goes after their weaknesses with pinpoint accuracy, which sounds like Smile, right? And nobody can Smile. Oh, so now they are talking about Smile. Smile has become the berserk robot that the other guys are talking about playing table tennis. And they're like, he leaves nothing but ashes in his wake. I heard Manabe from Kita High took such a beating that he quit table tennis. Ooh, yep. And that's the guy that went and found, oh my God, when we see Suda's character say, I'm leaving the beach and going to the mountains. And he's like, I think I'm going to go overseas instead. I want to follow him throughout this series. I want him to end up on the moon. I want him to end up in outer space. I think that he's so funny. That is such a good joke. That's such a great continuing joke in the story. I love it. And even Dragon takes off his hat to the guy, which is Dragon meaning Kazuma, right? And they're like, I don't want to play him. So then we have the actual game where the one guy is like, Miyasaka of Fuji High scores over Oda. So we have Katase High, Kimura, Takamura, Oda, Tsukimoto, and then Fujimoto is Masaka, Okuma, Tanaka, and Kurata. Okay, so Oda lost against one. And damn, Smile is brutal. Smile is obsessed. He's on a warpath. He is obsessed and blunt and not very kind, right? We're going to talk about team dynamics between the three teams in this segment here. And then we have Peco and Sakuma who've gone rogue to play independently. But man, Smile's just, and there is a part of Smile being blunt with them that I kind of get, because at the very beginning of the series, Oda and them were kind of rude to him. So it's like he pays back in kind. Like, Smile seems like the kind of guy that keeps a grudge, right? I love the robot sounds. I love that he faces the one guy and beats him. And that's that. And also Smile's interactions as this furious robot, crazy. Just wild. So we cut back to Pico. I keep wanting to call Pico Smile because he just seems like he's more of a Smile than Smile is. But this conversation about the Meiji chocolate bar, where he says, if you ask me, old lady, these super dark chocolate and high-priced chocolate fads, they have people forgetting the true heady pleasure of a 100-yen candy bar. In that defense, I love Pico talking about how the basics are better than the fads. Which is such an interesting thing to point out, because in this episode, Kaio High School is all about the fads. They're talking about special mat tennis shoes that you can play on mats, and it's all commercialism. And Peco kind of talks about, like, we have all this commercialism, all this junk, but at the heart of the matter, they're missing the simple pleasures of a good candy bar. We're getting lost in all this bullshit, and we're just missing table tennis for what it is. And that seems to be Kaio's biggest thing. Like Peco directly is an opposition of Kaio, that they are a fad chaser, and they are all about the glamour of it. Now, that's Kaio, not Kazuma. Kazuma is bare bones. Kazuma's like, I just want to do good, and I want to win. And Kazuma and Smile are kind of on similar warpaths at this point. Whereas what's interesting is we've talked about how Peco and Kong are similar and connected. They're kind of on similar paths. So you have Smile and Kazuma and their teams and how different they are. And then you have Kong and Peco over here and how different they're doing from everybody else. And it's just so exciting and interesting, right? And I love the old woman where she's like, come on now. She's like, quit bitching. I love that she's like, why are you still here? She's like, go home. Why are you still here? You don't want to play table tennis. You've quit. You've given up on training. Why are you still playing? Why are you still here? Just leave if you don't care. And I love that we have the difference between Obaba. She's been like, if you don't care, if you're not going to do it right, then there's no point in it at all. Kind of like what we talked about with the coach last episode. But then Sakuma comes out and he says, you're good. Quit being a bitch. Do it. You clearly want to. You're just running away from the possibility of failure. I love that Sakuma calls out Peco on how much he's running. He's like, you're running away, which made me wonder if Peco is going to be the hero, because it's like the hero is absent. And that 246 days, I'm like, in that amount of time, is Peco going to retrain himself to face Smile? I don't know. We'll just have to see, but we're going to get past the OP. We're going to get past the OP and get into this. I loved this episode so much. I want those shoes. I want the dragon shoes, the purple shoes with the pink lining. They're so cool. I would only wear them to work out in, but I kind of want them. They're great. And so the world's first shoes designed for mats used in international competitions. Now, the fact that they're only focusing on international competitions shows that it's kind of like that they're above Japan. They're like, we're better than all the other teams, so let's just focus on, the next step that we're going to get. Which to me is a little bit like counting your chickens before they hatch, because it's like, you just talked in the last episode about how there's a risk that you're not going to be good enough for high school sports, for high school table tennis in the future, but you're only thinking about international. Like the consumerism of Kaio is so fascinating to me, especially in relation to Kazuma, who goes along with it, but doesn't seem to really believe in the commercialism himself. He's just like, he's doing things the right way, but he understands that it's a business and kind of sees behind the Oz. Also, the green screen is kind of like the Oz curtain. So much good stuff in this. And so they tell him what to do for the commercial. Okay, so meanwhile, we have all the guys playing on the team. And the one guy who is not Sakuma is talking to Sanada and saying, so Cosmo's not coming today either. Like, so we have this idea of Smile he's working out with the team, but giving them a hard time, right? And then we have the captain, who is Oda, and his whole business with it, which we'll talk about that. Meanwhile, you have Sanada, that the team would rather be captain because he's more involved with the team. So I like this contrast where you have Smile interacting and engaging and playing and practicing with the team. The team just kind of gets shoved off to the side, and we'll talk about that when we get over to it. But then you have Kaio. Cosmo's kind of doing his own thing away from the team instead of Smile, and the other team is noticing it, and they're like, Cosmo's the captain of their team, but they're like, we really would wish that you would be Sanada because you're the better leader rather than him. And like, without you here, the team would have fallen apart. And Sanada is so fascinating because Sanada takes it all, but he's taking all of this in. And the team is like, you should be captain. You should be our leader. We would have fallen apart without you. And then you have Sanada's obsession with Yui, and he wants to date her, but she has an obsession with Kazuma. And it's like, oh my God. So, I thought Kazuma and her were cousins. They are, but it seems like they're cousins by marriage, which is like a clueless, like we're step cousins. We're not related by blood. So it seems like Yui wants to date Kazuma. She wants to date him, her cousin by marriage, thinking it's totally cool. And Sanada kind of hates it because Sanada right now can't compete with her, but he wants her. And it's like, oh my God. Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, and he makes an excuse for Kazuma, says he's a busy guy. And they're like, we wish you were captain. And he softens at that. I mean, you can't really deny, like, he makes an excuse for Kazuma, but whenever they're like, we wish you were captain, he don't make an excuse because that's what he would like too. So, again, in direct contrast, we have Smile being like, you know, it could make our team stronger if we do this more effective training, which is, I appreciate that Smile is trying to get them to practice more and work with him, which is not what Cosmo's doing. Cosmo's like, forget you guys, I'm going to do my own thing. You guys will figure it out. Smile is at least trying to involve them, which is interesting because before Smile wouldn't even think about it. But then here's the thing. He's like, am I wrong? And the one guy's like, well, whether you're wrong isn't the issue. You're pissing us off. And he's like, well, then there's these shoddy balls. And he says, I asked you to switch them with harder ones that are more uniform. And this is what got me, was the moment that Oda said, all right, I'm ordering them now. Yeah. And then Smile calls him out and says, I asked you to order them last week. Here's the thing. This is the thing. This is why I don't really feel bad for Katase's team, because Oda, for example, Smile asked him to do something and he is being lazy about the order, but then gets right on the appliance job. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the thing of it is, Oda gets on the appliance job that night as soon as he gets it, because it is something that is a job that he takes seriously and he values and knows the impact of not doing that job properly, right? He's not getting on the ball thing because he doesn't care as much about it. And that's fine. That's okay. But then don't get mad at Smile and bitch about it when Smile's trying to give you a new training menu and trying to get you to do things that are going to help the team, but you're too lazy and don't care enough to do it. Don't get mad at him. Right? And the coach kind of tacks onto that too. It's just fascinating to see Oda's character. And I love that you see Smile like crack there for a moment, like bitch what? And that's when the coach comes in and he's like, oh, hey everybody, how we all doing? Everything all right? And he's like, let's go running, Tsukimoto. And he's like, fine. And they're like, well, run yourselves to death and never come back, ping pong ding dongs. And they're all like, well, and my thing is, again, like I said last episode, if they really wanted to give it 100%, they'd volunteer to run as well, right? Sometimes on a team, you got to take the initiative, right? And one of the coaches I work with, they're like, I don't want to care more than you. If I care more than you, what's the point? I'm not competing. You've got to care. And if you don't care, I can only push you so far. I can lead this horse to water, but I can't make it drink, you know? So if they wanted to really give their all, then they would volunteer to start running alongside them. But they ain't doing that. So, and the thing with Kaio is they're kind of made to do it. So it's a whole different scenario. But then there's this conversation where the coach says, don't be too hard on Oda. And I love Oda being like, I just want him to do his job. Which again is so different because you have Oda who is not doing his job as the team, as Smile feels for behalf of the team. And then you have Kaio, who their captain, which is Kazuma, they feel has kind of abandoned them and is not doing his job as well. So it's interesting to see all these characters kind of start to line up in different ways. It's so interesting to me. And so then the coach is like, not as many people can do that perfectly as you might think. And I like the coach says that. The coach is like, I know you have high expectations for Oda, but not everybody is as dedicated as you. And it's harder than you think, managing all of that. And then Smile says, well, do you think I'm selfish? And he's like, no. He's like, you're not selfish, but you care way more than they do. And that's not going to make them any more effective. The fact that you care more. So then Oda, I like on the background here, there's all this graffiti on the wall, and then there's like the poster of the girl with the boobs. But they're like, so this person comes by and says, everybody's talking about it, Kaio's going to poach Tsukimoto. So there's somebody on the team. And Oda's like, I don't know about that. I like that Oda's like, I don't know anything about that. And they're like, well, what if he leaves? And they're like, well, we'll get some peace. And Oda's like, no, don't say that. Because like he knows, you know, the coach cares a lot. And they're like, it's not natural for a guy like him to even be here. But honestly, and then the one guy says, it drives me crazy how he looks down on us. But you know, as much as the other guys say that, Oda doesn't really want Smile to leave. I think because in the back of his mind, Oda knows that Smile kind of drives them, whether it's driving them to complain about it, but he still drives them and motivates him. And if Smile left, would the coach be as motivated? If the coach is even going to be alive, Smile is working that coach to death. He is working him to death. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm glad that Smile called him out for smoking and was like, you need to stop that. You put them cigarettes away. It's not good for you. I am worried that the coach... there is like a tiny tension here in this episode where it seems like Smile is pushing the coach to his limits. And I don't think Smile would leave Katase, but if the coach can only go a little bit further with him and then he gets to where he's at a limit, what is Smile going to do? Would Smile join Kaio to go further? Or what? How would that work? So it's bringing up some interesting questions of what could happen in the future, that's for sure. But yeah, this moment where Oda just instantly answers and is like, oh, it's 7 o'clock at night. You want me to come and fix the TV? Sure, I can do that. I'll head right over. And he does that without even thinking. He's like, I gotta hurry. And they're like, oh, glad business is booming. But it's taken him weeks to order the ping pong balls. You see a problem with that? You know? So then we go back to the school where they're practicing and the coach is like, I'm 70. I need to take a break. And that's where Smile's like, and Smile is respectful, but you can tell Smile is a little bit self-centered there because he doesn't quite see what the coach is saying. I'm like, the coach is 70. He's like, I need a break. I know you're fine, but I need to stop for a second. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I heard that Sakuma quit Kaio, right? And Smile says he would have learned his limits sooner or later. And the coach is like, yes. And that's when he's like, don't smoke in here. And the coach is like, oh, well. I also feel like not only does Smile not want the coach to smoke because it's not good for your health, but it also reminds him of Peco smoking. And he's like, I don't want to see that. Like, I don't want to be reminded about that. Interesting. But then we see Oda looking at the Kazuma at the table tennis magazine with Kazuma on it and says good players are choosy about balls and how to select tennis balls. So he is trying. Oda is trying. He just keeps getting distracted by other work around him. So that's the problem. But I feel like Oda is trying, and I feel like Smile does encourage Oda to keep moving. So that is good in its own respect. So Captain... he's like, I can always recognize you by your hair. He's like, I'm on the way home from helping out my parents. So was he the old captain, I'm assuming? This guy was the old captain before Oda? And he said Tsukimoto's not fitting in with the team. And he goes, oh, well, he's good. It's probably okay if he sticks out. And he's like, well, sure. A guy looking to make a career of it is never going to mesh with guys like us who are in it to make high school more fun. I'm off to cram school. That was such an interesting moment because that guy seems like the old captain who's now a third year and studying for cram school, so he's not playing table tennis anymore. And Oda is the one that took over from him. But what he says there is he's like, Smile's probably going to be a professional tennis player, so he needs to focus on this and be good and stand out. You and I, we're just doing this for fun, so, it's okay. And Oda doesn't really respond to that. Because I wonder if Oda, one, is considering if he's really doing this just for fun or if he does expect something out of it. And two, we have no idea about what Smile is getting out of this. Is Smile wanting to be a professional table tennis player? He's never said that before. So is Oda questioning whether that's really it or not? That's so fascinating to me. Okay. This whole thing with Yui and Kazuma and Sonata. Oh my God. It is the drama I have lived for. I have been waiting for an anime to have drama like this. This is juicy shit. What is this? Atlas shrugs over the bathroom with the marble. Like, bougie. Bougie. Also, no offense, but purple's one of my favorite colors. But if I saw it that much, I'd probably get sick of it. So, let's talk about Yui and Kazuma. Shall we? Shall we talk about Yui and Kazuma? In every anime I've ever watched, anytime somebody's in a bath or taking a bath or they're naked, the slightest person entering the room, whether they are family or friend or potential lover, it's always like, oh, how dare you? Oh, don't see me. He didn't move. He did not move when she walked in. It was like nothing. Also, I am looking respectfully. Also, I realize that Kazuma is like 17, but damn. But damn. And him just sitting in the tub, and then she just waltzes in like it's nothing, saying, I got wild lilies. I'm going to decorate with them. And he says, well, you're going to get pollen on you. Like, he was not like, oh, hey, I'm naked or anything. He didn't even care. And I'm like, is Kazuma asexual? Does he not care at all? Is he aromantic and asexual? And this is like, I don't care about her. And she's like, whatever. But then this conversation, she said, your family used to be in the florist business, right? And he's like, yes, Dad wasn't much good at business. So was Kazuma adopted into the family? Did they take him in? Did the mom remarry? Did his dad die? And then the mom remarried into this whole Poseidon company family and Cosma got involved in it? Is that why he's not as close with his mom? Or when he said dad wasn't much good at business, did the mom divorce the dad and remarry into the table tennis family? And maybe that's why he doesn't like the mom as much, because she divorced the dad and now he's estranged from him. But it makes it seem like his dad is not, his parenting, his lineage does not make him blood related to Yui. And so Yui, either that or they are in a relationship already, but it's not much of a relationship. But he says it wasn't much good at business. Casablanca lilies are nice, but mountain lilies are definitely the best. He's like, only certain flowers are decorating material. Having a dream takes talent, and those without talent should stay out of it. So that's a dig at his dad, saying that my dad wasn't good. He wasn't good as a florist, so he shouldn't have been one. Because I wonder if he is projecting the sense of antagonism towards his parents breaking up, possibly because he wasn't a good business person and he chose to do something that he wasn't good at. And he's projecting that sense of failure of his dad and possibly his parents' marriage on him, that he has to be good at table tennis. Otherwise, there's no point in him doing it. And he doesn't want to project and feel like his father. There's so much in this. And I'm like, oh my God. And then for him to say that, and she said, your dad was my hero for doing what he loved. So she knew him. So she knew the dad. She knew the dad and all of that. And then he says, well, heroes don't exist. What exists is reality. So we have this idea of two characters, Smile and possibly Peco, connected to heroes. And then we have Cosma saying that heroes don't exist. Well, if that is not building up and setting up a rivalry, I don't know what is. So I don't know. Maybe Yui is related to him by blood and she just has this kind of like incestuous love of him. He does not seem to feel the same way about her, right? He does not seem to feel that way. He just is very platonic with her. And the fact that only those who can adapt to reality win. And she's like, well, you're a hero to Auntie Emiko, Rio. And I'm assuming she's talking about his mom, right? I'm assuming when she says Auntie Emiko, she's talking about his mom. She's like, well, your mom thinks you're a hero, but he doesn't seem to like her for that. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why he's so antagonistic towards her. And then she says, let's go see the lights at Enoshima on Christmas Eve. As a little break, I'll ask again when it's almost time. which we come back to. We come back to that. And that whole scene, that's one of my favorite. The Christmas karaoke is my favorite scene in maybe this whole series so far. I'm so in love with it. But yeah, the lilies. Also, lilies are poisonous. They look pretty, but they're actually poisonous. So, especially mountain lilies. They are beautiful, though. Those are some of my favorite flowers. But yeah. So then we have the idea that Chinese players practice on mats from a young age. So we're going to get you all set with these new shoes. You all get the first world-class shoes designed for mat wear. Here's the thing, though, about the team, where they say thank you. And he says, oh, no, pay me back by winning. That's what they're for. Be like, I didn't give these to you for fun. You're going to do something with them. And I was like, ugh. That mentality of that team, right? Uh-huh. Win internationally. Okay. So then we have the scene at the aquarium. I love this series because there's so much happening week to week. Every episode in 20, you would think in 22 minutes, we wouldn't have a lot to talk about, but we have a freaking lot to talk about in 22 minutes. So we go to the aquarium. Peco, the Santa Claus scuba diving, freaking hilarious. And the girl's like, hey, I'm starving. And he says, well, we haven't looked around yet. We'll grab some ramen later. Showing, first of all, that Peco does not care about her needs. She's just here. He doesn't care about her needs. And when she asks if he got her a Christmas present, and he's like, then, yeah, doesn't work. Yeah. She's like, you asked me out. I'm going home. Again, I don't think Peco's interested in girls. I think he is just trying, every time we've seen him so far, he has distracted himself with different things. He's running, as Sakuma notes, but he's distracted himself by going to the beach. He's distracted himself. He distracts himself a lot with aquatic things, with water-based things, which is interesting. But he's taken a girl both times and completely ignored them. Like he didn't really care if they were there or not. He shows up at the beach and interacts with stuff, but it's not fulfilling. And Sakuma calls him out on all of that, which is absolutely hilarious. I love the Santa Claus diver. Love them. So anyway, Kong's team. Kong is back in Japan, like the coach had said, teaching the team. He's learned Japanese. He's speaking to them in Japanese. I feel like Kong getting humbled was just like the best thing to happen to him. Kong getting humbled. I freaking love him. His team are all friends. They have such a good team dynamic. And the thing about it is, I feel like it's what Peco could do to Katase if he would get on board and care like Kong does. Because Kong is like, look, I know my limits. I know my limits, but there is a chance, but I still want to do this. And I still want to make my mom proud. And I'm going to keep trying because it's important to me. And it's important to me to do good for her. So yeah, I'm going to work with you all. And we're going to get better. And I feel like he does, it's so like Kong's team is so polar opposite of Kaio. They are the most polar opposite. And whereas Smile wants to work with his team, but instantly points out bluntly how much better he is than them. Then you have Kazuma, who kind of feels like he's above his team and doesn't need to be with them. Then you have Kong, who, like Smile, tells them honestly, and is like, you know, you're not going to get better than me. But he's not as blunt or cruel as Smile. He's actually, he works with them and tries to help them. And I love it. I love it so much. And then they're all just having fun and playing. And then Kong is like, all right, that's not practice. What are you doing? And they're like, oh, Kong. He's like, do not do this. How many times do I tell you, Kimura, practice serving? And he's like, you're 3,000 years from doing this right. And they're like, that's 30 centuries. He's like, if you improve your serves, you'll be a good player. That's the truth. I love that, unlike Smile, who's just like, you guys suck. You're not as good as me. Bye. Kong at least is like, you will get better if you do X, Y, and Z. And Kong knows that because Kong has done that himself. And that makes such a difference. Like their little Kumbaya team, I freaking love them so much. And like, well, I'll be able to play like you. And he's like, not a chance. And he's like, time to go back, everybody. Oh. And then like we see the plane, his mom comes with all the things, and then Kong takes the cart from his mom to push through the airport. He's so polite and he's like good to his parents. I freaking love him. I love him so much. And they're making the wontons, which is so cute. And this scene where they're all making the wontons together, and then the one guy comes in and sees them, and it's this beautiful little cross-cultural moment where she's like, get this guy to help us. And he's like, we don't need him. We're having a moment. She's like, no, they're a lot. It'll go faster this way. And then everybody on the team ends up helping her, and it's so cute. It's so cute. I love everything about this team working together with the mom. It's so adorable. And then they all come in to help her, and they make the food, the Christmas meal. They're so cute. I love all of them. I'm just obsessed with this team and Kong. And then she brings in the cake and says, Merry Christmas! So there's multiple cakes. She brings the cake and they all say Merry Christmas with that. And then he has a karaoke voice, and I'm like, I'm done. How could you be not more perfect? So I also love the one guy's face as the champagne's getting poured, like the goofy face, adorable. Meanwhile, we juxtapose Peco being at his worst. The moment he pulled out the crate with the booze chocolates, I was like, and then he ate 2 of them and was like, these are duds. I was like, oh no. Oh no. I can't have chocolate personally because I'm allergic to cocoa. So I can have white chocolate, but I can't have regular chocolate. But I have watched people consume a whole bunch of them. They're kind of like pudding shots. Like if you make pudding shots with alcohol in them, they're really sweet. And you're like, oh, this is fine. And then you have like 3 and suddenly it like hits you at once. Nope. So yeah, so Peco gets drunk by himself. Meanwhile, the coach with Smile is like, look, I'm old. Let's take the day off. Merry Christmas. Go home. But the karaoke, I want to download this song because the song that he sings is so good. There's no one else in the parking lot. I love this where I love the mom doing the dishes and she's so happy. Meanwhile, she's like looking out the window. Then I was like, where is she looking at? What is she looking at exactly? Because then we have Smile, who's by himself with the cake, and it has all the masks for Christmas and the little cake on it. Is that what he gave him? I think that's what he gave him. The thing about it is, we don't see Smile with anybody. Smile's by himself. So we don't know what his family's like. He doesn't eat the cake. He lets the candles go out. It's really sad. So, I would argue that Smile's Christmas is probably the saddest Christmas because it doesn't seem like there's anybody home. It doesn't seem like he has anybody around. We don't know the situation with his family, if he even has a family. It's just really sad. And I felt really bad for Smile in this moment. I was kind of like, oh no. I wanted to like be there with Smile to celebrate. Right? Meanwhile, though, Peco is drunk. Peco's drunk off the chocolates. He ate all of them and he's just stumbling around, yelling at things. He's with the bonbons. He is like at his lowest point. The whole scene with Yui, where Yui is waiting because she told, and her phone has the lily on it. Her phone has the lily on the screensaver. She told Cosma that they could go out to see the Christmas lights on New Year's Eve. She told him that. Now, she said she'd follow up with him, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's 8:30, and she's sitting there waiting on him. And we find out she had told him to meet at 7, so she stood out for like an hour and a half waiting on him. So then it says, under construction. We apologize for the inconvenience. And we have all this construction that's going on, and we see Sakuma, who, since he doesn't have table tennis, he's gotten a job working in construction and kind of has, and that doesn't surprise me because I'm like, Sakuma's a hard worker, so why are we surprised that he was working that? But I feel like sometimes when you take a break from something and you work, you kind of get a new perspective. And I feel like he's like, why am I doing this? But he's got a new perspective, which we'll talk about in this. But yeah, them all playing the karaoke and they've all got the drinks. These 2 guys in the back holding on to each other. I'm shipping them. These 2 guys on Kong's team, in the back with their arms around each other. I'm shipping them hardcore. I don't even know who they are. But Kong's singing voice is beautiful. And the song sang All Alone on Christmas Eve. Oh, I love it. And they're all like cheering him on. I am here for the kumbaya of Kong's team. And from Kong to go, his character development from going to being like, I'm better than all you Japanese people, and I'm just here to claim my title and then go home, to being with his team, interacting with them and being besties. I was floored. I was floored. You know what else floored me though? You know what else floored me? After this karaoke scene, what we go to next, after we look around at all the friends, we see Oda. We see Oda setting up the satellite and then watching as the other people celebrate Christmas Eve. And I do feel for Oda a little bit because he's having to work on Christmas Eve, which is a little bit sad. I felt for him. I felt for him and Smile being by themselves. The whole scene with Sonata, the fact that Sonata has a poster of Yui hanging above his ceiling, and the fact that he's jerked off to that photo because there's a bunch of tissues right there by it. I don't think he has no damn cold. I think he has about as much of a cold as Sakuma had in the last episode. No, he's been jerking off to her and using the tissues. Like, I had 2 guy roommates in college. I know what that's like. I know what that is. So yeah. Yep, that's exactly what those are. It's kind of disturbing in a way, because I felt bad for Sakuma, because I felt bad for Sonata, not Sakuma. I felt bad for Sonata at first, because it's very clear he likes Yui. It's very clear that he's, mad that he doesn't get to be with her, that she likes Kazuma, and he's kind of jealous of all that. I will say, it is a little creepy to have a poster of a real life woman that you interact with in real life hanging above your bed. Like, I know guys have posters of women like hanging around. They're usually like celebrities or models or stuff. That's one thing, but to have a poster of somebody, I feel like it's one thing to have like a parasocial kind of poster of someone hanging up, and it's like, you're never going to meet that person. So there is kind of some voyeurism there. I think that's fine. But the fact that he has a poster of a girl that he's interacted with in real life hanging above his bed and he's jerking off to it, that's a little bit like, if she found that, what would she think? Also, my thing is, what was the gift? What was the present with the bow on it? Was that for her? Was he going to go give that present to her and he chickened out and decided to just jerk it in his room instead? What was the deal? Because then there are all the fireworks and she's just hanging around waiting to see if, she's sitting there and she's been abandoned. And for a second, we see Kazuma, what we think is Kazuma. Now looking back, going back through the episode, he's shaded in purple. He's not in like flesh tone, so he's a hallucination. She's just imagining it. She's imagining him showing up like he said he would, and then them walking around and her putting her hand into his coat pocket, and then them being together as a couple. Like, she's imagining all of this. And that's what she wants. She wants to be in a relationship with Kazuma. But then when we see her again, we see that she's by herself and he didn't end up coming like she had wanted him to. Also, God, Suda's actor being like, I'm going to go overseas. I want to follow him on this journey. He's so funny. I love that. And it's just word bubbles. But yeah, all her walking through the parade of lights, and it's saying you've always believed in a formless love, and she's by herself pretending to hold his hand, and she drops the hand. Yep. And then she gets back to their house where they're staying together, which, how insane, you're staying with this guy, and maybe they are dating. Maybe they are dating and it's not just her imagining it. Maybe they are dating. Here's my thing. I want to say that they are dating because she has access to his phone. I mean, I don't know relatives that have passwords to your phone. You know what I mean? So maybe they are dating and it's just not as she wants more out of the relationship than he's giving her, is what I think is happening. They're in a relationship, but it's very much just for looks. And the sad thing is, Sonata clearly likes her and would probably go out on the town with her to see the lights and do everything, but she doesn't like him back. Or maybe she doesn't even know that he likes her, which is almost worse. But she gets the text, and there's one text from Taku that says, here's the training menu. And then she says, I hope practice was good. And it says, let's take a break and I'll meet you at 7. So she waited an hour and a half for him. And he didn't show up because he was training instead. And she just deletes the text before he can see it. Because she doesn't, she's like, I don't want him to feel bad, but also what's the point now? And then she goes downstairs to look for him, and he's down there training. He's training, like, instead. And the look on her face where she kind of, like, just stares at him, it's like, I feel like she can't be, I love the sweat, like, on the back of him. Like, they animated the sweat from his, like, butt crack and his back of his back. That was really cool. But it's almost like, I feel like she can't get mad at him, but if I were in a relationship with somebody and they just were so obsessed that they kind of avoided me, it kind of reads like Peco. Like, do you really care? I want to know if Sonata was going to give her that gift. That's so interesting. Then the candles go out. Interestingly, we have the 3 masks. We have Santa, we have a cow for some reason, and then this creepy ass star on top of the tree. And then the cake goes out. I feel bad for Smile. Like, he doesn't eat any of the cake. I wish Smile would go hang out with the coach and his wife at least. I wish he'd go hang out with them because he looks so sad and all alone here. It's giving very March Comes In Like a Lion, like the beginning of the show, and I want better for Smile. I really do. So we get the intro title card very late in the game where this episode is called You Love This Sport More Than Anyone, and it's like, yes. So then we get Peco coming back to the table tennis, coming back there, and that's when we see Sakuma. And they're like, Sakuma? And she's like, an idiot. Now, Sakuma is trying out a new style because he's like, oh, doing the walk of shame, Peco? He's like, guess you're living large post-tennis. And he's like, do you like my chop? It's not bad for a guy who taught himself. So I like the fact that Sakuma's like, I'm going to start over. I'm going to learn a new style that fits me better. He's like, maybe I wasn't doing as good as I could because I was doing the wrong style. So I'm going to start over again. He's like, I didn't want to have any regrets. And of course, Pico's like, So he's like, I gave it a shot. I love the woman, Obaba. She's like, whatever. So I love the fact that Sakuma's like, I got kicked in the face by Smile and I did some soul searching and I realized that I need to be playing table tennis. He's like, I like it and I want to keep playing. I really love, and he says, not all birds can fly. But does that not make them birds? Is he may not be able to excel at table tennis, but does that mean it's not worth it? And so then I love when he tells Peco, you've got talent, you need to keep playing. And Peco goes, who are you? I freaking love them. Maybe it's their matching coats that help too. And I love that he keeps throwing the cigarette away, being like, look, I'm smart. And I did some thinking after Smile beat me. And I was suspended for beating up the punks and got kicked off the team. And I thought that maybe because of my lack of talent, I shouldn't keep playing. But then I accepted it. I felt freed by it. I saw clearly. And I love he's like, you can see competition. You can only see when competition is not a factor. I love that kind of allowed Sakuma to realize, am I doing this because of the competition or because I enjoy it and I want to challenge myself? And he kind of decides the latter. I love he keeps throwing the cigarette away. He's like, you have a talent for table tennis. And Peco, he's like, he feels kind of insulted by it. He's like, I couldn't beat you. So what do you mean I have talent? Like, don't insult me. And I love that Sakuma finally calls him out. Like, I talked about it all last episode. I was like, he's like, play for all you're worth. He's like, quit running. Quit half-assing it. He's like, run till you bleed. Hit the ball till you puke blood. Like, go till you shit blood. He's like, you don't do anything. He's like, why are you just running? Yeah. He's like, why would you stifle that much talent? And then Peco says, I was really good back in the day. And it didn't even occur to me that anybody could be better than me. And I could return the ball with my eyes closed. I could fly. I could jump up and touch the moon without breaking a sweat. But then I didn't know the meaning of the word miracle. Like for Peco, his whole thing was that he had all of this talent, but the moment he saw the rest of the world, it just intimidated him. He suddenly questioned whether he's like, I was so innocent and thought that I could beat everybody, and then when I saw how much better people are than I thought, it made me question and doubt myself. Meanwhile, Sakuma's like, well, I wanted your talent. I copied your style, your racket, your form, everything, even if that wasn't the most beneficial for him based on his skill set. You know? I love these guys that walk by that are like, ah, youth, confessing your love. He's like, but I couldn't be you. And they're like, oh, nice. That's raw youth right there. And I love Sakuma's little blush where he's like, shut up. At that moment, I was like, I kind of ship them. I kind of ship Sakuma and Peco just a wee bit. It's so cute. And then he's like, everyone in our class admired you. To us, you were like a legend. You were a hero. You loved this sport more than anyone. And then Pico's like, I'm just going to jump. He's like, I'm flying, and then he doesn't. I love that he goes to this journey of where he thinks he's drowning in the water, and then it felt like Love Actually when Sakuma goes out to grab him. But then we see, oh my god, little smile with the glasses. Adorable. He says, everyone says I'm like a robot. And I feel like it's one of those things with both Smile and Peco. Smile's like, everybody called me a robot, so that's kind of what I became. Because that's what everybody says I was, whether it was true or not. And in the case of Peco, he's like, everybody said I was the best, but then I couldn't live up to that expectation anymore, and I didn't know what to do, so I ran. Whereas Smile kind of lent into the label, Peco ran from it. He says, don't worry, Smile. You might as well have been born to play ping pong. And then now the old lady says that about Peco, but Peco says that about Smile. I also love this dolphin that just comes in to like grab a hold of Peco and lead him to shore. Like, what a weird thing. But then, yeah, Baba's like, you're going to go to the Olympics. And he's like, that's my dream, the world champ. And she's like, my. And then he says, do you believe in heroes, Peco? Are you kidding me? What's with this guy? I've come from the planet Ping Pong. I'm totally invincible. He says, infant. Ping Pong gets more complicated. Smile. I don't want to sacrifice things to play. Only rookie kids pull out that old line. Old lady. I love Peco going through this. I want to put an end to it all and go far, far away. I'm like, Peco, do not be ending your life. I love that Sakuma is like, please stop it. What does he say there? Well, then he wakes up on shore and Sakuma's like, really? I had to pull your ass out of the shallows. You're not drowning. Quit it. Like, Peco has a moment where he's Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off and he's like, I'm dying. And Sakuma's like, you're not dying. Just be serious. He's like, never say that line again. I'll kill you. I saved a moron drowning in the shallows. You didn't even make it to open water. He says, keep playing table tennis. Run till you puke blood and practice swinging till you shit blood. Yes! You'll feel at least a little better than you do now, Mr. Hero. Oh! I cannot wait to see the storyline with Sakuma and Peco and where it takes us and how it's going to connect with Smile, because I think it will connect with Smile at some point. Oh my god. And then, yeah, then we see Peco washing away all the ocean water and walking out. And he looks for the old lady. So he took a shower. I also think it's worth noting that he took a shower at the table tennis locker room. I don't know what that means about his home life or situation of why you wouldn't take a shower anywhere else. But then he looks for the old lady and he looks up and sees a picture of them. And it's the picture, we can see it all, of it's upside down, but it's of Smile. I'm sure Smile's holding the trophy, but his head is blurred out. And there's Peco holding it as well. And then there's Sakuma. I don't want to see Peco looking lame. Do you believe in heroes? And she says, oh, yes. She's like, every time we played. She's like, brings back memories. I found it while we were sorting. And then she's like, are you going to propose to me? Don't do it if you don't mean it. I love her relationship with him. I love the old lady's like, you want me to train you? Fine, get ready. I love the idea of the old lady training Peco and the old man training Smile. I want to see them face one another. I'm really excited about this. He's like, I want to learn the whole sport from the beginning. I want to start over. And she's like, well, give your idiot your time and you'll lose the whole day. Ah! And he's like, help me send China packing. I want a ping pong team and the world's champ. She's like, you'll waste my time if you're not ready to see it through. You better be ready. Yeah! Oh, I'm so excited. And she says, love you, Peco. Ah! I love it. Oh, yes, please. Oh, I'm so excited. I was really sad going into this episode because I thought that Peco was going to quit and that was going to be that. And we were just going to focus on Kong, Kazuma, and Smile. But the fact that Sakuma and Peco are making a comeback, I'm living. I'm so excited to move forward with this and see what we get. Oh, I cannot wait. This episode was amazing. I cannot wait to see. I feel like Smile and the coach are going to reach a breaking point because Smile is going to get to where he reaches a threshold of how much the coach can do for him, and he's going to keep being hungry for more, which is going to be interesting to see where that ambition leads him, if he's going to stay with the coach or if he will lead. Or if he will leave, we'll see. I'm interested to see how the whole love triangle with Yui and Kazuma and Sonata goes. And what Kong and his amazing besties are going to do. I love them all to pieces. And then Peco and Sakuma. Y'all, this episode was amazing. And I'm 1,000 times here for it, so... Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode reaction discussion. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts down below, but I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back real soon with some more ping pong. Bye.